I think the interdimensional space it will be next. I think we're going to start exploring that. I really do. Like,
well, we're doing it with ecstatic DMT.
True. I've been talking to too many alien abductees who believe that the aliens are us from, or versions of us from other dimensions.
Well, tell us,
not other space.
Like, let's hear some of these stories. What's really
with the aliens?
Yeah, like, have you heard a story that's kind of like rocked you to your core?
I wish I could say that, but I have met people who are, because I'm such a skeptic. Like I do want to believe. I really do want to believe, and I'm willing to talk to everybody. But I met one person in particular. We talked for like 2 hours before we even got to aliens. Normal stuff, newspapers, just like media, culture. Really, really got down. And
you were like, "Who'd you vote for?" And he was like, "Oh, Biden." Oh, and by the way, I was abducted by aliens.
Oh yeah, basically, I was just like, about the abduction story. And he's been abducted since he was 9, and he has a support group for UFO abductees or people who've had encounters, and so they share all these stories. But he's been abducted since he was 9, and he has very, very vivid memories of being lifted out of his window, looking over Peekskill, New York, which is the town where the Yellow Brick Road was, the original Yellow Brick Road.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And kind of hovering over the trees. And he believes that the beings that come for him are like avatars for beings that can't travel if they're far away, from like faraway planets. He's like, they're controlling them because they have like a hive mind, and they're like opening his skull. And he says he wakes up feeling these things, and he has a PhD in the spiritual awakening of being abducted. It's fascinating.
Like, he's an actual PhD, or you're just saying figuratively?
No, yeah, not like me, where I bought one for $20. He has an actual one.
So he thinks that they're electromagnetic drones, essentially, like they're piloting.
I don't know if they're electromagnetic, or I don't know if he knows. He says he's touched them, and they have a hot sensation. He remembers like recoiling. But this has been happening to him since he was 9.
And they keep coming for him.
Different ones. We all know about the Greys. That's what I asked him. So he also claims to be like a psychic. And I asked him if are the aliens coming. Are you a psychic as a consequence of the abductions, or because you're a psychic? Is that why they're coming to you? Because he would fix computers for a living in like the 70s after he got back from Vietnam. 70s, 80s, he's running around fixing like machines and computers. He never talked about being abducted because there was a stigma. You don't want to talk about that with people. So, but people would keep coming up to him and just talking about being abducted. They had the urge to tell him like their weird, not abduction stories all the time, but like, we saw a UFO, something like that. And then, I think his wife might've been the first person he told, after 30 years of not telling anybody. So I want to say I believe him. It sounds crazy. Like his stories sounds legit to me. But I also think sometimes people might confuse horrible dreams and a reoccurring nightmare. But I also have then listened to different psychiatrists who say there's no way to have trauma from such an experience. Like these people who claim to be abducted, they have some type of trauma. So they can be hypnotized and they relive it.
I know people, I've known people throughout my life with schizophrenia. And I have heard stories about weird government abductions and experiments. And I'm just like, the things they say are overtly insane. It's one thing to be like, you need to believe me, man. Guys in suits came to my house yesterday, and I'd be like, okay. But when they say things like they have nanotechnology devices that they've injected me with that cause invisible cameras to circle my head at all times, and I'm like, nothing's happening. Am I missing it? Where is it? Can you tell me where it is? I'm like, that's, objectively nuts.
I have a theory about schizophrenia, though. I think they're plugged in to a mind level that we don't understand.
It's kind of a sad thought, though. Some people may just have misfiring brains, and and they need help. But yeah, I'm like, what if my friend is telling me the truth? They're actually seeing something that's real, and we are just sitting here because look, I've had friends who they can have a conversation, and they can tell you this is a bottle of water. I need to drink water and eat food. I went to work today, and then they'll say something like, I can see the beings. And people will tell them they're crazy and they're schizophrenic, and it's just like, imagine if they really did, like in The Sixth Sense, the kid can see the dead people, but they just tell him he's crazy. Or in Constantine, it's a good example. In Constantine, the movie, he's like growing up, he could see all these things. He could see the angels and the demons. And then nobody believed him. They thought he was crazy and they put him in hospitals. Imagine being told you're crazy when you're the one who's right because you can see something that people can't.
Like the
Hunter
prophet's
Biden's
laptop.
laptop.
I was going to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, true.
No, not schizophrenic.
You're crazy. That's not real. It never happened.
Didn't they just confirm that though?
Yeah. Right.
It took the corporate media, but I think schizophrenia, people with schizophrenia are kind of plugged into an information dump, right? They can't turn it off. And not to say that kids are schizophrenic, but there's a lack of filter between them and the world. Like I think when we grow up, we start to take on all of like the substance of materialism, and then we start to think of like just the routine of life. But kids are still thinking about aliens and ghosts and monsters, like my 5-year-old all the time, every night. That's all we talk about. And when I had a friend who was schizophrenic as well. That's all he talked about. I'm like, maybe they're just like sensing something that we just can't perceive right now. Or my kid is just crazy.
No, I think remote viewing, that's a CIA project. The CIA investigates it because it's that seemingly legit. And there's stories about people that die.
Did you write about?
No, not yet.
Yeah. Project Looking Glass, I think maybe is something.
Stargate was the one, and I think it changed names.
And then you get these anecdotal stories of people that die on the operating table, and then they are above their body watching, and they hear the doctors saying things, and then somehow they come back to life after a couple minutes, and then they recall the conversation to the doctor who's like, how did you remember?
Because they were there on the bed
maybe
listening.
they were dead, but they weren't completely unconscious, but they see themselves from above,
Yeah, but
and they see them like what color she was wearing, and
yes, but the problem with that is you could be semi-conscious and see a pink scrubs and see a doctor. You hear what they say, and afterwards you're like, you were talking about your football game, and the nurse was wearing pink scrubs, and like, how did you know that? But the crazier stuff I read about was that they would put numbers on the tops of things, and there were people who could tell you. They'd be like, on the top of the monitor was the number 6. And they would be like, what?
So you could be...
Like, you weren't able to see
measuring...
that.
I know I'm probably bastardizing the word vibration, but you can measure the vibration around you and basically measure the matrix. All you need to know is where something is, how much of it there is, and what it is. And then you can map that onto a 3-dimensional grid on a XYZ axis and build the matrix. So if you're feeling the vibration of the matrix, you may be able to calculate what everything is that's causing that vibration. And maybe on some subtle level, people are picking up on that. Because how else would you see a 6 on top of a monitor?
They would have like cards and stuff with information on it that could only be seen from looking down.
Yeah, they did studies.
And there would be people who would be like, I saw this card and it said these things. And they'd be like, wow.
I was trying to help solve a serial killer case a few years ago. The Long Island serial killer. And through that, I was talking to some cops who used people who tried remote viewing to find bodies. Because this particular killer left like basically a graveyard in Long Island. Body parts all over the place that would match with other parts of Long Island. And parts that were there for like one part, they found a torso in the middle of Long Island, and they found the hands 30 years later.
Whoa.
Yeah. But there was a guy in Norway and a guy, I think, in Jersey who were trying to like find, remote view, and the guy in Norway, supposedly, according to the reports out there, and I talked to him, he helped find a body. Whoa. And he's just sitting in a room, just like doing what he does. I tried reaching out to him to help find some people, because we still don't know who some of the victims are.
Oh. But he gave them information. Doesn't that person
in Norway?
But don't they just become a suspect at that point?
Yeah.
He should.
Where's the body at? I can tell you where the body is.
Yeah, I had this great source, but now he's in jail.
Yeah. You should. I don't know if I told this before. Look, you should check out the Istal woman and the Talmud Shud case.
Yeah, you did. It's on the list.
The ice woman of Norway, dude. Yeah. It's a crazy story.
What was that deal? What was the deal?
So a woman was found like dead of smoke inhalation with a bunch of passports or something.
Right.
And there's a bunch of like questions about who she was, how she died. And I think the prevailing theory is that she was a Mossad agent tracking down Nazis. And one of the Nazis she was tracking down to assassinate got the best of her.
Oh, that's good.
Crazy stories,
good.
dude.
Yeah, no, we're getting into it.
This is what's really crazy is like I think about history. I think about stories like that. And I'm like, the craziest thing is a large portion of our history is probably the result of a deep conspiracy we'll never know about. True history is probably long forgotten and long lost because you can look at it today. A news article will come out and they'll say something that's like technically the truth, And then I'll give you a good example. Like Newsweek wrote about the Trump supporters wanting to secede and the Biden voters also agreeing. And they said Trump voters want the country to break apart. What they didn't include was like, yeah, but 41% of Biden voters agreeing is like a substantive number. So it's not only Trump supporters, but history will record the framing of it. So I think back to like, you know, there are a lot of people who are like, I don't appreciate how you said this about this person because it makes it sound like X when it's more like Y. And some people just disagree on framing. And then you look back at history being written by the winners. It's not just that. It's like, you know, we hear these famous quotes, Benjamin Franklin, it is better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. And he could have, maybe what he said or wrote down was substantially more crass or crude. And then later on, someone who knows and loved him said, I'm going to remove that swear word. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat. And we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.